Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Hobo Hero. Last time I spoke to you guys, I basically gave you guys an update of why I wasn't, on the air for a while, and the fear of being canceled by the cancel culture and people maybe offended by what I might have said and try to attack my job and my way of life and income and all that stuff. Being divorced and traveling and you know, eventually finding a nice Thai lady in Thailand and settling down and getting remarried again at 50. Now 51, going on 52. You know, back at it again. Um, yeah, life now is pretty much settled in pretty good. Everything's sort of static. I have my routine is basically easily is work. I do my mandatory 2 shifts a week, which is 2 24s, 48 hours a week at the minimum, and try to pick up as much overtime as I can, hustle, make that money because I work to travel, believe you me, and either I work out or just come and relax. But I try to get back home to Thailand and Isan every 3 months. Um, I don't do it in the summertime because that's when I make my money. So the wife's got to suffer without seeing me physically in the summertime. But the power of the modern technology, you know we're always on the phone together. She loves being on FaceTime with me. Her and my Thai daughter, they all love me to death, and they can't stand being not seeing me within at least an hour of them waking up, if not literally waking up and just calling me right away. So I spend a lot of time on the phone with my Thai family, which is good. I got to give it that to them. She's a good woman. She has issues of abandonment, and she had a prior uh, you know um, relationship with her child's father that didn't quite work out. He abandoned her. It is what it is. That happens here as well as anywhere. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, and they break for reasons. Just like my wife. She divorced me too. It happens. I mean, with her, her husband just, or boyfriend, she didn't get married legally. She got Thai marriage, so she has Thai marriage, but eventually he decided they're too young. Uh, you know, Now got pregnant at 18. Now at 28. Going on 29. She's finally going to do it again. We're gonna do it legally, and hopefully, like I said, she wants someone who's going to be there, who's not going to abandon her, who's going to treat her well and take care of her and her daughter. And I'm all about that. Especially I have her daughter is a very good looking, very good girl. Um, Very respectful. I mean, she treats me very well. She loves the fact that I want to be her father, and she loves the fact that she wants to be my daughter. Uh, you know, they're both going to take my last name. You know, and any other children. And I told them, like, that's great. Because any other children we have, she can. It won't be like an odd, like, they're this, she's that, and she feels like she's going to be the odd ball of the group. uh, you know, and I think that's very important. Like with cohesiveness, she has accepted me as her father. I've accepted her as my daughter, and like I said, she's a tad bit younger than my youngest daughter, and yeah, she's very pretty. She is a very pretty girl, actually. Nothing, not to make it weird or anything like that, but and everybody told me she should be a model, and I I can accept that, but I'm also afraid of that because there's a lot of bad people out in the world, and I don't want them taking advantage of my little girl like that. So I worry. She also shares my YouTube channel, and you'll see a lot of her videos on my channel as well. So one way or another, I try to protect my children, whether they're my blood or not, because they're my children. But I know she wants to be, famous. She wants to be an actress one day, or a model or dancer, and you know All I can do now is just watch her, make sure she does the right thing, and she's dressed appropriately. She's not being provocative and stuff like that to get likes, because not everybody, because she doesn't understand that not everybody who's her age is going to be watching. There's going to be people that ranges from 5 to 100, and everybody has their own agenda, and so I have to make sure that she's careful. Like I said, I'm not interested in her trying to look like a bar girl. And I've told her that multiple times. And she knows, she understands now. Before, she sees these teenage girls dressed like that, and that's what she wants to do. But, I'm telling her, hey, honey, you way too young for that at any age. You could be 30, and I'm not going to be happy with you looking like that. That's just how it works. Yeah. I just wanted to make a quick video. And, a quick video to me is probably... I'm already past the 5-minute mark, so it is what it is. But just getting back to go back home, to Easton on Sunday. I try to give them, my time as much as I can. Go there for a couple of weeks, get adjusted to the food again, and the country life there, and check on the bills, make sure everything's paid, make sure all of our financial situation is all set. Make sure everything with the house is good. All that good stuff. Sometimes it's just good to just get a mental break from this great country called the US of A. Another YouTuber, like to say it's a rat race, you're on the hamster wheel. And I agree with the old, sunshine shoulders. Uncle Kevin ain't wrong. Love you, bro. You the man. And I also know that he's plagued now of he had to leave the Philippines to come here to take care of some business, and his story is a good lesson for everybody. If you go to a place and you want to live there full time, you gotta make sure that all your documentations are up to date and stuff like that. You can't ignore documentation. A place like Philippines or Thailand or any other country, if your passport expired a year ago, it can't be I didn't know. It's on you as an adult to make sure your passport is legit, legal, and ready to go at all times. Just in case if, you got to leave, you got to come back, they start checking for your papers. I mean, even now in Thailand, they want all records of foreign nationals to be, registered with the local Thai government. So in Isan, my wife has to register me as a occupant of her house. She has a house and she's got to register all occupants there, and that means me too. And so next time I go there, which is a couple of days from now, I got to go to the police station. They got to freaking check my passport to make sure it's legal, make sure it's not expired, make sure I'm here, wherever, whether it's a vacation or I'm a tourist or marriage or whatever. I mean, I don't have the marriage visa right now. I'm probably not going to do that for a while because, like I said, I'm not there long enough for me to be on a marriage visa. It's just easier to just do the tourist thing and then come and go, because I'm only going to be there for a couple of weeks, out of the year. I'll be, probably a total of a month. A couple of weeks here, a couple of weeks there, and a couple of weeks there. Maybe so a month and a half, 2 months at max out of the year. I'm usually in Thailand. I'm here because I have to work. This is where I make my money. This is where I make my living. This is where, I'm still obligated to pay my child support to my ex-wife and our kids. I have no problem with that. I'm obligated to my kids here. I want to make sure that they're okay. They are, but I want to make sure they're okay. I want to make sure that they know that even though I remarried and, wife and, children and new children and whatever, they're still loved. I'm not throwing them away. I'm not going to put, others above them. They're still my children. They wear my last name. They're going to be my children till they die. Yeah, let alone I die, yeah, but other than that, that's it, just waiting to get out of here. I think as a emergency service personnel, you work long hours, and I could tell your concern, your level of concern greatly reduces the longer you work in this field. And I feel like, every 3 months is my recharge. I can go take off, get my refresh my mental sanity, and try to get rid of the baggage of working in EMS, and the baggage that people dump on you. And it's not like they dump it on you because they want to. It's just your job is to respond to calls. Whether it's a medical, whether it's a psych call, or trauma. You walk in everything. Yeah, we're firefighters. We fight fires, but we made our job almost obsolete because we enacted a lot of codes, fire codes and regulations to make houses and people safer. So we don't get a lot of fires. Even the big cities don't get a lot of fires. People are like, oh, you're not a real firefighter, and those guys in Boston are real firefighters. Yeah, but how many fires they fight really? For a large area. They don't. It's not like the 70s and 80s where people were burning their houses down and they had work to do. Now, no one's burning houses down. As of now, we haven't had an arsonist in a while. It's the same thing. We all average about 4 fires. Every town average about 4 fires a year, and most of the time, maybe not the town I work in. We may go mutual aid to another town and fight their fire. Help those guys out. So, we're getting it, but the majority of our job is EMS. 90% of what we do is emergency medical services, and that's what keeps us employed. That's what keeps us paid, And I love it. I love being a paramedic. It's the best job I had, and I've been doing EMS since the late 2000s. Since 2006, and got my paramedicine in 2012, and I've been rocking ever since, and wouldn't change it for anything. It's great, and now doing it for the fire services is even better. It's an sure way to have a stable income, a good job, respectable, and a good pension at the end of the year, at the end of your tenure. Not a bad deal. But I'm gonna go. I think now I'm gonna go and relax. I worked out for the day. I'm gonna go relax, heal an injury here. I ended up screwing up my elbow yesterday. I do mixed martial arts and martial arts in general, but yesterday we were doing one of the guys have a fight, and so we're just doing some work with him, and I end up, he got me with this escape, and he wizarded me. I don't know if guys what I'm talking about, but he pulled my elbow down in my shoulder and cranked down on my elbow as he was getting up in. It didn't pop, but it didn't feel good either. I was definitely out of the match, and it was funny because it was the last round anyway, so it was time to go home. But now you go home sore, you got to ice it up. And at 20 I'd be okay, because the kid's 20 something, but at 52, not so much. But I feel like I'm 20 when I'm in there, and then reality sets in once it's all over, and I got to drive home, and I'm like, oh, why did I do that? So today is a rest day. It's going to be an easy day today. Anyway, as always, folks, let's be good to do good. And you guys have a great day. Talk to you soon.